Hello. Yes, I just want to report and talk about another article in the 1972 Encyclopedia Britannica Yearbook of Science in the Future. Um, I don't wish at this moment to talk about the full article about aging. It's about aging and it's by someone called Mr. Shock. Um, Reading it back 50 years later, it is in some respects shocking. They are suggesting that they're sort of thinking of the possibility that people might in the future live to be 100, but they're reporting that back in 1972 the average age limit was 70, apparently. Now, that seems at odds slightly with what I remember, because a lot of the problems with the tobacco companies were because the age difference on tobacco, if someone had smoked for a long time, meant that people were dying at about 75 years of age, rather than 78 years of age or something, I seem to remember. But if everybody was dying at about 70 in 1972, then I mean, I admit that there is there was a big problem with tobacco. Lit to cigarettes chucked out of car windows, stubs everywhere in the street. I'm not trying to condone the tobacco industry, and I do think, in some ways, it's rather disheartening. I was myself, as a former smoker, I was upset when I was a young woman, after all the encouragement we'd been given as young women, and to be able to smoke and stuff like that back in the 90s, that one of the professors at York University said, well, it's all right for men to smoke, but I really think it's disgraceful that women are smoking, and young women at that. They are, he implied, they are mostly for baby producing for men, and that they shouldn't, for their own health, and for the health of everybody around them, be engaging in smoking. Now, sort of as I was at that time hearing that, almost determined to carry on smoking myself at that time. I stopped smoking, and later on when I got pregnant, but the in the mental health services in York, they tried to persuade people into smoking, so that if there was any comeback from all the bad and awful medications they were giving people, they would be able to blame the smoking and blame it on the patient, not on the administration of faulty and often, really awful medicines. And, it worries me that the Health Secretary, Therese Coffey, I can see that if people are being abused all over or mistreated or threatened with murder, then they might think, well, I might just have a cigarette and settle down from whatever mood I'm happening to be in, whether I'm male or female. But certainly it bodes badly for the health service, because it suggests that they might want, all the talk about freedom to smoke might, in some ways it makes sense, because to enjoy oneself, and I admit that smoking can be soothing, it looks better than sucking your thumb. For adults, only slightly perhaps, some people scoff so much at it, but it certainly is comforting, and it's better in my estimation than a lot of temper losing or whatever, well, if you just cried a lot, then you'd be written off as mentally ill anyway. So it just sort of makes sense to calm down and have a cigarette from time to time if you're feeling the need to be soothed. And it doesn't harm, really, in some respects, other people as much as some behaviours do. But to sort of make out, well, to have it encouraged again would be a bad idea in my book, because it would mean that everybody has even accepted that health is such a problem-stricken industry now, that they might as well encourage everybody to smoke again, and to try and cover up all the bad effects of half of the medicine. So and also what does worry me as well, though, is that the tobacco industry, which did used to be in some ways a thriving industry back in the 90s when nearly every student smoked at York University, they may have diversified into more worrisome means of making money. They might have, some of the e-cigs, they, some of the liquid might be worse for people than tobacco was in the first place. And some of the gadgets, some of the e-cigs are, you have to chuck away great big pieces of metal and stuff regularly, and insert new coils and things like this, and and so on. Or maybe the tobacco industries have diversified into some kind of weapon making, or how else are they managing to get that flow of money back to them? Maybe I'm not saying that smoking would be better, but if there's, and I don't necessarily, what I'm saying is that the tobacco companies might not have been as evil as people were making out if people were dying at 74 instead of 78, and the American books are saying that people only lived till 70 anyway in 1972. No idea.